Okay, ladies and gents, welcome back to the second part of the shadow tutorial. In the first part I discussed how to make a basic oval shaped shadow, and now I've also been asked how to make proper shadows, more realistic ones. Now if you've looked at my movies, I very rarely do them because the method I have, which to be pretty frankly is pretty shit, but it's the only way I know how to do advanced shadows, only works in certain positions, though I have found a way to make it work in different poses. But for now, if you have a character looking face on, this tutorial is ideal. You might be able to take away something from this and develop your own method, but this is how I do it. So you're going to need 3 video tracks and obviously this sort of layout. So you got your character footage on top and you got your background footage at the bottom. Now you right click your character footage, you select copy and you paste it directly underneath. So basically you got the exact same piece of footage playing twice. You select the footage, the character footage, the second one on the bottom, you right click, choose video event effects, and you add black restore, just like you did to the, just like I did to the oval. So you add that and you crank that to maximum. Now you won't really see any change because I've affected the character footage on the bottom. So for example, if I move it, that's basically what's underneath. So now what you need to do, and this is the tricky thing, you need to use the effect called deform. It's a tricky thing to use, and if you find that something goes wrong while using this function, just right click and remove it and it'll reset, so you don't have to worry about your footage being damaged. So the first thing you need to do once you've got the deform effect active is to increase the amount by 100%, well, crank it to maximum in this case. You'll notice no change because you haven't affected any of the parameters of the footage. Now I normally fiddle about with horizontal and vertical. It's usually horizontal, so I'll affect that. I'll only do it a little bit, just a tad, tilt it. Now you probably can't tell, but you've essentially just tilted the footage in a way. So there's a, I'll show you what I mean, because if I try to move the footage you'll notice it'll cut out, because that's basically the maximum length of the footage, and it'll happen to anything, I'm afraid. There's nothing that can be done about that. That's why I mean, this is what I mean by it's constraining, because there's a limit. No matter how much you bend it, this will always happen and there is no way around it. That's why I try not to bend the footage as much, but you can always work with it. So for now, as you can tell, the footage is a bit big, but just for now, just align the shadow with the feet. And what you need to do is you need to first shrink it, because obviously an individual shadow doesn't suddenly sprout up. It has to be, you know, along the ground. So first resize it so it's only touching the ground and nothing on the background. Now at the moment, as you can see, the shadow is too small. You know, it's not even perfectly aligned with the feet. Now what you need to do, the best way to solve this issue is to, if you right click, you know, event pan and crop, you'll see this feature here called lock aspect ratio. I need you to turn that off just for now. Now what will happen is, well, I'll show you what it does. When it's on, it stretches all the footage, every aspect of it. But if you switch it off, the lock aspect ratio, it will either fatten the footage or stretch the footage upward or downward. Now what I need you to do here is to fatten it just a bit so you can align the feet. So you can align the shadow of the feet with the feet of the actual character. So you just need to do a bit of repositioning. Probably need to stretch it out just a tad more. You know, I'm trying to rotate a little git. Come here. There we go. And as I said, even I'm a bit new to this. I don't use this feature often, but I need to turn this back on. Just give me one moment. I'll just need to shorten it just a bit more. It's just something you gotta practice with, and even I'm trying to get used to it. So let's see, there we go. That's probably as good as it'll get. That's pretty well aligned, it's not too bad. So now you've got your shadow, and obviously it's a bit too thick and chunky, so just like last time, you gotta, you know, right click video event effects, add Gaussian blur, reduce it to 0 first so you know what you're dealing with, increase the horizontal blur just a bit, and do the same with the vertical. So you got your shadow there, and just like last time with the oval shape, you got to reduce the opacity. So just hover over your shadow footage and reduce the opacity. and that's all there is to it. You now got yourself a more detailed shadow. Excuse me. Now the thing is, since you copied the footage on top, they're essentially the same and they're perfectly in sync. So even though the character's got a stand animation, he breathes in and out, his hands gently move left and right, the shadow will do the exact same thing, because all you've essentially done is copied the footage and altered its properties. So even if you do a character who is walking, it should still work, but walking is a bit more tricky. I'll get to that at a later date. For now, this is the basic solution on how to make detailed shadows on a character that's standing still. As I said, the deform tool is not the definitive way of doing it. This is the method that I've created. It's very rough and I'm still trying to work out the kinks, and it took me a while to suss this out. And I'm sure people have got better ways of doing it, but if you stumped on how I did it, this is basically the way I've done it. So I hope that this information will come in handy for you, and I think this will conclude part 2 on how to work with shadows. So stay tuned and I might make a part 3. Bye bye.